Alright, here's units of production. If you saw the video on straight line, our first step was getting that depreciable cost, which is cost minus residual value, and that's going to be the same first step that I want to do for units of production. So I'm going to take that $27,000 minus my $1,500 residual value, and I'm going to get that depreciable cost of $25,500. So what's units of production asking us then is, as we use the machine, this is a payment machine, one of those credit card machines. It's going to do 255,000 payments over its life, so it's going to take 255,000 swipes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to depreciate based on the number of swipes I use in an individual year. And it's saying in the first year we're going to use 61,000 swipes, the second year 140,250 swipes, and then the third year 53,550. So it makes sense then in this units of production that we're going to take more depreciation during the year when we take more swipes, since I'm going to do depreciation per swipe. So we're saying units of production, you need to figure out, what does this machine do? Well, this machine swipes credit cards. How many of those is it going to do over its life? And it's going to do 255,000. And let's get a depreciation per each one of those items. So I have my depreciable cost I'm going to take right from my first step, and then my second step here is divide your depreciable cost by total units of production. So I have $25,500 depreciable cost, 255,000 units of production, 255,000 swipes. It means 10 cents of depreciation expense is going to be taken for every swipe. So now my new note here is that units of production method may produce different amount of depreciation expense every year. So keep that in mind. Now, if the machine does the same amount of activity every single year, that depreciation expense will be the same. But in this case, we're going to have less depreciation expense in year one because we used it less than in year two. And let's do that calculation. So at acquisition, you didn't use any yet, so you have zero depreciation expense. So you don't have depreciation expense until you actually use your asset. So year one, how much did we use? It says 61,200 right there. 61,200 units used. Multiply that by my depreciation expense per unit, which is 10 cents per unit, and I get a depreciation expense for the year of $6,120. Okay. Year two, I used 140,250 payments, 140,250, 10 cents per payment. Multiply those together, so in year two, my depreciation expense is going to be 14,025. Year three, how many payments? Right there, 53,550. Multiply that by how much per payment? 10 cents per payment. And in year three, my depreciation expense is going to be $5,355. And then all we're going to do is build this same schedule we built before. At acquisition, you have zero depreciation expense. My cost is $27,000 all the time. Every year, it cost is $27,000. My accumulated depreciation when I bought it is zero, so my book value is going to be the same thing as my cost when I buy it. That's going to be the book value because there is no depreciation taken yet. So year one, let me just take our depreciation expense here, $61.20, and I just copied the formulas, kept the formulas from before here. All I did here is if I look at the formula for this one, old accumulated depreciation is 0 plus my this year equals my current year's depreciation. Okay, $61.20. Book value equals cost minus accumulated depreciation. So after year one, my book value is going to be $20,880. Go to the balance sheet. $27,000 is going to be my equipment value every single year. Accumulated depreciation in year one is going to be negative $61.20 for a book value of $20,880. Year two, go right to my calculation. We use 140,250 payments, 10 cents a payment, 14,025. 14,025 is my depreciation expense. Accumulated depreciation. last year's plus this year's depreciation expense. $20,145 for a book value of $27,000 minus $20,145 gives you a book value of $68.55 after year 2. So I'll plug that into my balance sheet, the $20,145 of accumulated depreciation, which, look at my net equipment, matches the book value in my table. Year 3, take it from my calculation, $53.55 is my depreciation expense. Accumulated depreciation, last year's plus this year's depreciation expense. Last year's accumulated plus this year's addition, which is depreciation expense, and it's $25,500. Our book value is cost minus accumulated depreciation. So we'll plug that in here, minus $25,500. And if you saw the last video, what do you notice here? Accumulated depreciation $25,500 equals depreciable cost. Book value equals residual value after the 3rd year. And look at my balance sheet, same thing. Equipment, $27,000 minus accumulated depreciation $25,500, which is the depreciable cost, equals residual value of $1,500. And then on my income statement, we'll just have a different amount each year. $61.20 is my depreciation expense in year 1, $14,025 in year 2, and $53.55 year 3. The income statement, how much did I take this year? Balance sheet, how much have I taken since the beginning of time? And notice if you add all 3, that's at $25,500. If you add these 3 together, that's going to be that accumulated depreciation after the asset is done. Good, so that's a 4-step process for units of production. We're going to go on to the double declining next. Thanks.